belief, self belief, belief in oneself, self talk, self image, agency, self determination. Uh, you know, it's very difficult to talk about these kinds of things in a broad context because it's so personal. Um, everything from the formative years in your life to you know uh, self-fulfilling prophecy behaviors as an adult. We all have our own life journey that we're on, and as human beings, as business people, as creatives, whatever your professional path is. And in my experience, other people sharing their experiences, their point of view, and perspective on these things has really unlocked challenges that I've faced in my own journey. And so that's my intention here today, is to just share some thoughts with you guys about things that I've learned along my journey in music and in business that hopefully will unlock some ideas for you in your own life and in your own journey. Disclaimer, apologies if the camera's going out of focus or the lighting is weird. I'm new to this whole thing and I'm still toying with the settings and trying to get the space dialed in. I just moved into a new space and everything's different, and so I'm still working it all out. So appreciate you sticking around, and hopefully, it'll get better every week. Just glad to be able to, you know, make these videos again and share my thoughts with you. So anyway, if you dig it, if you're interested in music business, entrepreneurialism, just get subscribed. And every Friday I do a new one of these videos. So today we're talking about um, the idea of believing in yourself versus building yourself. When I was first starting out as a musician, when I was a kid, it's sort of teenager years, everybody, you hear this phrase over and over again: you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe in yourself. When I was first starting out as an entrepreneur and trying to build this company that I run now, Artist Growth, all these other founders and all these other people, you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe in yourself. And what I came to learn is, while not believing in yourself, meaning believing you have the talent or the aptitude, or believing you have the vision, or believing you have uh, you know, the value to succeed in the world, is certainly a huge thing. But over here, equally huge, is this other concept of building yourself. And to me, this is where uh, so much of personal empowerment lies. I think for my life, I got way caught up for way too many years in trying to believe in myself, trying to, uh, you know, get to a point where I was confident enough to succeed, if that makes any sense. And now looking back, I wish someone had told me, you know, 20 years ago, no, 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 believing in yourself will come as you build yourself. And you need to be focused on what you can control, which is your actions. Sometimes it's very, very hard to control the mind, and it's very, very hard to control our emotions because we're responding to the world in real time, and it's a challenge, lifelong challenge, right? That's part of the journey. But building yourself is something you can control. This is where you get into daily practices. This is where you get into, learning disciplines from those who've come before you, shaping your own personal life process, your own personal creative process, your own personal professional business process, putting these things into action day after day after day. You start to build yourself as a person, as an artist, as a businessman or woman, as an entrepreneur. Um, and this is where I believe the true seat of empowerment is. And the belief in yourself starts to evolve and change and kind of hook its train to the engine of building yourself, if that makes any sense. Meaning, every little success you have, your self world, your internal world, your self talk, your self belief is going to evolve. and it's going to gravitate towards all your little daily wins. Taking a walk every morning, meditating every morning, keeping a journal, having a fidelity to a certain kind of productivity process that you create for yourself, bettering your ability to communicate with other people. These are all very little steps in a very long journey, sort of the ultra marathon of a career, the ultra marathon of life, uh, you know, that build confidence, that build assurances, that build a sense of gravity for your endeavor and for whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think it just can't be overstated how critical that is. On the creative side, being able to capture the moment, practicing those fundamental craft skills. Like if you want to be a woodworker, you need to get really good at sanding wood. You need to get really good at cutting and measuring. You need to get really good at, probably, a whole, the use of a chisel, the use of a file, all of these different little tools in the toolkit that you learn how to do them on all these little practice pieces of scrap wood, and you get very, very controlled and you get very, very good. So then when you're in the moment, when something's happening, like you're not sitting there figuring out how to use the tool, like you just do it and the creativity's flowing through what you already know how to do reflexively. Reflexively, is that the right way to say that? Anyway, so with music, it's those fundamentals. I would argue in business, it's the same thing. There are these different fundamentals of how you evaluate a strategy, how you test an idea, how you challenge your status quo of how you manage your time. Um, and there's so many tools that so many brilliant people who've been very successful, and so many brilliant people who have tried certain things and not been successful, and those hard fought, hard earned lessons that they've shared with us. Making part of your practice to get better at the fundamentals every single day will make you a stronger business person. It will make you a better, more empowered artist. And it's in your control how much time you want to give that, how much investment you want to do, how much discipline you want to apply to it. This is where I get into like the idea of building yourself is so much more important than believing in yourself. The belief will come. And then another piece to this whole idea of building who we want to be, is this concept of discipline. And discipline is hard. People who have very dialed in levels of discipline have been doing it for years and years and years. And it's like running. You can't go out and run a marathon when you first start running. You'll get injured very badly. You could potentially die, right? Ultra marathon for sure. You can't go out and run a half marathon when you first start running. Really, you can't even go out or shouldn't go out and run a 5K. You should walk and then jog for 30 seconds and then walk again and then maybe jog for a minute and then walk again and then stretch and then do it again and keep doing it. And what happens is your systems and your structures of your body start to adapt based on the stress that you're putting on them, right? The same is true for all of these sort of personal growth, personal building disciplines. You can't expect to be able to meditate for an hour right out of the gate. You can't even expect to meditate for a minute, I would argue, if you're just starting. You can't expect to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day if you've never done that. Oh, I'm gonna wake up in the morning. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna do my thing before my day starts. I know people that do that, and it's amazing. And I do it sometimes myself, but I'm not one of those that does it every day. I can't. It's just not who I am. So I find a way to apply discipline in my life in ways that really align with me and also the needs that I have for the work that I'm involved in, right? So my creative pursuits, my business, my family, all of these things are my friends, and you can't do it all, right? So there has to be priorities, and some things do suffer. And these are the sacrifices we make in order to achieve our goals with our life, with our career, with our art, etc. And so, my earnest hope for you is that you will start to think about your own personal discipline and what's my starting point and what can I do consistently over and over and over again that will be easy. It's so easy to do that it becomes part of your routine. And then your systems and your structures adapt, and then you can do more and you can add more. And uh, I just think it's so important. Another piece to this whole thing, and this is also kind of a touchy subject because everybody's different, and there's so many mental and psychological and emotional lanes in this space, but I think that wellness is a huge part of this idea of building yourself. It's very hard to be healthy in today's world for a lot of people. I get that. It's hard for me at times. But over the years, this has become a central part of my identity. And I am deeply passionate about taking care of myself. And that means sleep, getting as much as possible. A minimum, I try to get a minimum of 7 to 8 hours a night, if not more. Hydration, absolutely critical. Finding an eating process and pattern that works for me, that makes me feel good, like really testing what foods my body can do good things with and what foods really mess with me. Exercise. And I go up and down just like everybody else. Like I'm not some kind of like perfect machine on this, but just setting the intention that wellness is going to become a core central focus of your life will have multiplier effects for your creativity, for your artistic work, for your business, for your ability to be a leader. Um, I just can't overstate how important I think it is based on my own experience. And so things I do to stay healthy, that, intermittent fasting, um, cardio, sometimes it's running. I love to run, but also sometimes it's just like simple as jump roping for 3 to 5 minutes. And when I started, I couldn't even do 3 minutes. I could only do 3 minutes if I did like a minute and then did something else and like took a break and then came back and did another minute. But jump roping is another one. Going for walks is another one. It keeps my mind clear. It keeps my body focused. It makes it easier for me to fall asleep. It makes it easier for me to want to eat the good things and not eat shit, which still sometimes do, not gonna lie. Uh, Human being over here. But physical wellness, critically important to it, has a massive impact on mental wellness and emotional wellness. And I would argue even spiritual wellness. And I'm not going to go too into the spiritual side of things because I big vast world, and it's just not something that I want to really touch on in this context. But mental wellness and emotional wellness, huge, 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 because it your ability to focus for extended periods of time, this is a muscle. You have to exercise it. You have to train it. Training your body helps you train your mind because it's difficult and you have to push through. All huge in our ability to be able to show up day after day after day. When you make the switch from like believing in yourself to building yourself, you also get to the point where you can goal setting and vision casting for yourself starts to become more I don't know if realistic is the right word, but it becomes more clear because your mindset switches and you get into this incremental growth process. And so it's not so much about becoming, you know, whatever the end goal is for your life, like your bucket list, 5, 10 year plan, whatever, if you even have that. It's not about that. It's about like next week. Like, what can I be better at next week, incrementally? And then it starts to compound and compound and compound, and you get better and better and better. And listen, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I still struggle in so many ways with so many things, and it's just a part of the journey. Um, the last thing I'll talk about is, this idea of community in business, in life, in creative work. Having some sort of community, it could be one other person. Um, it could be a whole host of people, and it's different for everybody. But the challenges become so much more meetable when you are connected to somebody else that of like mind, of like ambition, of is sort of in a similar place as you, and you can share the journey, right? And I also think this is where mentorship comes in. It's important, even if it's like a long distance mentorship, as I think about it. Like, I follow some people on YouTube who I consider to be my mentors. I've never met them. Odds are I will never meet them, but I learn a ton from them, right? There was a songwriter once, um, who I knew personally, but I had, told some people like, oh yeah, this guy's my mentor. And when he heard that, uh, he was like, what? Like, I'm not your mentor. Like, we barely see each other. I said, dude, I own all your albums. I own all your books. I've read them all multiple times. I listen to your music all the time. You are my mentor because I am studying your craft and what you've done. I go to your shows. I listen to the things that you say. I go to your readings. I listen to the things that you say. Uh, I am absorbing what you're putting out into the world, and it's teaching me. And so in that way, yeah, maybe I'm not coming over to your house and you're like giving me lessons, but you are mentoring me because I've chosen you. And that's what I would encourage you in this context is choose your mentors and choose wisely. And they don't have to be people that you go to lunch with. They can be people who are putting things out in the world that are meaningful and that have real gravitas to them and that resonate with you. And you go to those people and you really, really take it in, and then you process it, and then you make it your own. And that's liberating, right? Because then people you're never going to meet can become your quote unquote mentors. And you start to process their work and what they say in new ways because you're looking at it and listening to it and absorbing it through the lens of your own journey and your own work that you're trying to do, whatever that is. And so, at least one person who's on the level with you, and then really get intentional about who you go out there and make your mentors. And even if like your hero can't be your mentor because maybe your hero isn't putting a whole lot out there. They put out a new record or a new book or a new speech or whatever like every few years, and so there's just not a lot there for you to lock into. Well, you can find mentors who are in the tradition of those heroes, who are more engaged in sharing. Lock into those people, right? Even if like their work isn't what necessarily inspires you, it could be their process that inspires you. It could be their approach to how they've built themselves that could inspire you. And you got to just like you got to put water in your body, like you got to put those things in your mind, in your heart. You have to just go out and find those people because that's going to help you create a map, a roadmap for yourself. Um, and then, you keep what resonates and what works for you, and you just immediately let go of the rest, and you don't try to force a square peg in a round hole. And little bit by little bit by little bit, you start to become a better athlete, so to speak, in your creative work, in business, in your professional relationships, and your fitness goes up. And that's what it's really all about, is this idea of training. When you're building yourself, you're training, and you're becoming a business athlete, or you're becoming a creative athlete, and over time you'll realize like, oh wow, I'm capable of doing things that I wasn't capable of doing 6 months ago. And you become more productive. And then all of a sudden the goals and the self-belief and the self-talk and all of these things really starts to shift because you are getting these incremental gains and these incremental wins. I'm a big believer in long game. I know a lot of people that just can't play the long game. They're always just looking for short-term hits, short-term wins, immediate gain. And I really try to discipline myself away from those kinds of impulses where I am focused on the long game. But I know that in order to get where I want to go in the long game, there are short-term and medium-term wins that I have to cultivate, and I have to figure out a way to make them happen. And it's those teeny tiny little steps of personal fitness training in business, in discipline and process, and wellness that are going to allow me to have the stamina and the focus and the perspective to be able to troubleshoot and unlock the challenges, right? Whether that's closing a deal or whether that's figuring out a solution to for your team around a certain process, or whether it's understanding, how do you design that UI, or figuring out the last line to the third verse of a song, or how to title a poem, or whatever it is. Your creativity will be exponentially increased as these incremental steps in building yourself as a creative athlete or a business athlete or both, um, which I would argue in today's world, if you're a creative who wants to just be able to focus on their art, and meaning you need to make money doing it, you know you got to get fitness going on the business side to some degree, especially if you're at the early stages. You got to figure out how to do it yourself, and that's been my journey. And I'll share more about it on this channel in the coming weeks. But anyway, this is the move. I think this is the path, which is uh, stop worrying about believing in who you are, believing in yourself and your capabilities of all the things you want to do, and start thinking about building yourself and all of the things you can do today, incrementally gain and increase your fitness across all these different disciplines, all these different crafts, and you will start to believe in your ability to achieve these goals when you start to experience your creative and business and wellness and fitness increase, and you realize, oh, I'm doing more than I used to be able to do. I'm better at this. I can apply my focus now for longer periods of time. Um, and it is a thrilling thing when you start to experience that, and other people will notice it, and it will change you. It will change how you approach every single day in the world, on your journey, going after what it is that's important to you. And I'm so excited, uh, you know, for you, if you're already like, yeah, dude, I already know all this, and I knew this before you did because I was doing this shit when I was a teenager. Well, then good on you. But if you're somebody that's kind of been in you know, that self-talk struggle, that like, how do I break to the next level struggle with yourself, like, I hope this resonates with you. And if it does, if you're sitting there watching this right now, if you've made it this far in the video and you're still like, and you're sitting there going, yeah, 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 this is talking to me. Well, then that makes me very excited, because you start applying these things, you will see changes in your life and you will start to feel forward momentum. And it is all about that long game. It is all about the journey and the joy of getting to where we want to go. Right. And I'm a big, big, big believer in that. And my life is proof that you can do things that at some point in your life, maybe that right now, today, you think you can't do. Yes, you can. I am living proof that you can do things that uh, you know, even that you and others thought were not possible for you. And so, anyway, guys, hope this is helpful. Uh, I'll be doing one of these every week. I'd love to know, like, questions that you have, things you want me to talk about. Artist Growth is a software company, but we're squarely focused in the music industry. I've spent my whole life in the music industry. I'm also an artist. I'm a singer, songwriter. I produce music in my home studio, and I just want to be sharing things I've learned with people in order to, sort of have something out there in the world that maybe could help some people that I'm not going to get a chance to meet in person. So anyway, uh, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. I hope that you're inspired in whatever it is you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you again. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Peace.